in this camo shirt. I swear, I'm filming a bunch of videos in one day. I don't wear a camo shirt every day of my life. But anyway, this video I'm gonna react to a Tame Impala album. This is the 2020 release called The Slow Rush. I had actually never heard this album. This was a request by somebody that commented on the ASAP Rocky reaction. Their name is Qualinix. I think if I'm pronouncing that right, I will shout them out in the description. But really appreciate anybody taking the time to comment. We really, encourage commenting on this channel. So, if somebody's commenting with a request, I'm definitely going to do my best to abide by it. So, let me get the album pulled up. The Slow Rush, yeah, this is the 2020 release. So, I mean, with my background on Tame Impala, um, waiting for like everything to pull up. I've heard Currents. Like that's really the only album I've heard by Tame Impala, like all the way through. This is, the one with like the less I know the better and Let It Happen and stuff like this. I've heard like this album multiple times. I really enjoy that album, but for some reason I never really branched out and tried to listen to Tame Impala after that. I did listen to like a good chunk of this one on a drive, but I didn't like I don't remember it because I was like driving and I wasn't like fully focused. I might have listened to the whole thing, but I didn't listen to it all. So that might be like another reaction. But the Slow Rush was the one that was requested. And yeah, and those are the only like two Tame Impala albums I had really heard. Obviously, I'm aware enough of Tame Impala to know that Tame Impala is one person, but there was a long stretch of time where I thought Tame Impala was like a band. Which I mean, I'm sure when he's live, he has like some type of band. I don't know. I've never seen like how his live shows are done. But yeah, it's like kind of one of those things like the weekend and stuff. Like it's a name for one person, but it sounds like the name of the band. I don't know the full concept because I haven't deep enough into Tame Impala and Kevin Parker and all that. When I saw the request, I had saw that I had Posthumous Forgiveness saved. I don't really remember the song, but it's saved on, my Apple Music. So apparently I heard it at one point. Maybe it was like the opening single and I saw it on like the trending tracks of the week or something. I don't know. I don't really remember it off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll remember it when it comes around. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and, dive into this and it's not too long of an album, 57 minutes, 12 songs, released in February of 2020, so we hadn't quite hit the pandemic yet. I'm curious to see how it, compares to what I've heard from Tame Impala so far. But one more year, that's the opening track. We're gonna go ahead and get it started and give it a listen. Was interesting. That was a really interesting intro. I didn't know what to expect with this album. I really didn't know much about it. Kind of didn't, hear it when it came out in 2020. Instrumentally, I thought it was, really, really good. It sounded like stuff I had heard from Tame Impala before, but I think, he really nails that sound down, and he just further developed it on this one compared to the album I have heard. I like kind of like the vocal panning and kind of weird thing that's going on in the background. Got a nice like little kick to it, like it's something you could dance to. But the lyrics are incredibly like existential, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word to describe what I'm hearing. Um, I'm not quite sure, who he's referring to when he's talking about we. When it initially started, I was thinking, this was like a love song or something, has slowly become all we do. I never, what did he say? I know we promised we'd be doing this until we die, and now I fear we might. Like that's such a like that's like a pretty sad thing to say. Like that's like you know, it sounds like disappointment. It sounds like things aren't what you expected them to be. That's kind of what I got out of that line. Like that's the line that really stood out to me as far as like this first track. But as it going on, I was like, is uh is this about like a romantic relationship, or is this more just like an existential thought, And it sounds like a lot like he's maybe sick of the road life, the touring, not caring if we do the same thing every week, not worrying if I get the right amount of sleep. Like that sounds like something, issues you would deal with while you're on tour. One more year of living like the free spirit I want to be. Um, and I mean the one more year is kind of interesting. Like I don't know if he's kind of like writing this album from the perspective that he's not going to be around in a year. Um, that's what I'm getting so far, especially when you got like a track like Posthumous Forgiveness as a title and Tomorrow's Dust and Destiny. That's kind of what I'm thinking this is about. I'll read the little blurb like towards the end of me listening to the album. Like I'm sure it probably kind of sums up the concept a little bit, but yeah, I think that was a really good intro. It was interesting. It made me think a little bit. Instrumentally, it sounded good. Vocally, I thought he sounded good. Um, yeah, I'm into it so far. Instant Destiny. That's the next track.
I'm about to do something crazy. No, I'm going away. No, this today is too far. We can get a home in Miami. Go and get married. Tattoo your name on my arm. Traffic doesn't seem quite as annoying.
I like that outro a lot. And anytime there's like synthesizers, I'm like that reminds me of like Tyler the Creator. But that really did remind me of like something you would hear on Igor in terms of the end. This is another song like I feel like it's like it's kind of disguised as a love song, but I think it's really talking about making impulsive decisions. Which I mean it kind of makes sense. Like if I'm correct in my thinking that one more year means like living life like there's only one more year left. It kind of makes sense, like kind of just do something for the moment and see how it goes. You know, we could we could get a home in Miami, go and get married, tattoo your name on my arm. um it let's cause something permanent just so we know we can. I mean it sounds like just like it is a love song like on the surface, but I think it's more so commenting on like life is short and um you only get this one chance to make decisions and do stuff and do something maybe impulsive, but something memorable. And it's okay to maybe have regrets. And like I mean like let's drink this magic potion. Like I feel like it's like like eloping in Vegas, like kind of vibe I'm getting out of this song. um yeah, no, I really like that. The instrumental was a little bit more subdued other than the intro. Vocally, I thought he sounded good. That was like, pretty like a pretty catchy song. So far I think we're two for two here. Going into Borderline. It's got the little star. I never know what that star means. I'm assuming that means it was like a single. So, Borderline, next song, let's give it a spin.
Gone a little far, gone a little far this time with something. I was acting low. I was
I've heard this song. I've definitely heard this song. So it had to have been the single because like I know this song. Like, I've definitely heard it and I do like it. But I'm gonna spin it anyway, just to hear it in the context of the album.
acting nervous. I came rushing beyond the borderline, dangerously fine and unforgiving. Possibly a sign I'm gonna have the strangest night on something. Here I go.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that one in a while. Like I definitely heard that song. Like as soon as it came on, I was like, okay, I've heard this song before. The lyrics are really, I mean, like first off, instrumentally, I love it. I love the little, I've said like on a previous video, I'm not good at identifying the instruments, but it sounded like a good little bass line in the background. I really enjoyed quite a bit. I mean, it's like almost a danceable, I would say it is a danceable track. Um, with like some very, in my opinion, like pretty dark lyrics. Um, I'm not like great at like understanding lyrics right away, which is ironic because like I make music and I write lyrics all the time, but I don't even understand them when I write them a lot of the times. Um, Gone a little far this time. I mean, like initially, I mean, it reads across as like a song where he's talking about substance abuse. I'm gonna have the strangest night on Sunday. Uh, Quite a show for a loner in LA. I wonder how I managed to end up in this place. I mean, like to me, the way I'm reading this song is this is like a night that just got out of hand. Maybe he did something. He's done something that he regrets. I'm assuming like messed with a substance that he hadn't done before. But I mean, this could also, uh, you know, be something like maybe he like I don't know what his life was like in terms of marriage or if he was in a relationship, but this also could read like he was adulterous or something like that and is having regrets now that the sons came up. But you know, I'm getting it. It was like what I'm getting out of the song, and you know, on the surface, and maybe I'm not digging into it deep enough, but you know, it sounds like a night that got out of control. Um, like I don't know, it's kind of a dark track lyrically, but it sounds really pleasant and really like upbeat and like danceable. Uh, Posthumous Forgiveness, that's the one I had saved. Don't remember it, so gonna give it a listen, and maybe I'll remember it when it starts playing. Yeah, yeah, definitely heard this one.
Ever since I was a small boy, no one else compared to you, no way. I always thought heroes stay close whenever troubled times arise.
finish the lyrics or anything. It got me like tearing up. Jesus, that was oh my God, Jesus, wow, that was amazing. Yeah, I'm like actually crying tears. Jeez, wow, wow, wow. Like I have like almost like nothing to say about that. It was so amazing. Um, like he doesn't quite like allude to like who he's talking about immediately. You kind of just like assume it's a father. Um, but you could tell it's like a parental, uh, you know, issue he's talking about, and uh, talking about, did you think I never know, never wise up as I grow. This line really, really stood out to me, and you could store an ocean in the holes in any of the explanations that you gave. Like that's just such a powerful way to call somebody a liar. Um, and then that transitioning part, like it just had like gave me goosebumps, but I had my the hair on my neck standing up. And then, when the instrumental changes, he goes on to basically like forgive his father for the things that he had done. That's when I started like kind of like tear up because um you do reach a point in life where sometimes you just understand. You make mistakes yourself, and then you understand that other people, you know, like they hurt you. Um, and you don't. It still hurts. Like the pain doesn't go away, but you can understand where they were coming from, and why they did the things that they do. It doesn't justify what they did, but you can at least get an understanding of it. And him just talking about all the things he wants to tell him, and he met Mick Jagger and thought of him and spoke to him. That's geez, like I did not expect that to make me cry. Wow, that was yeah, that's amazing. Like yeah, I guess I had heard it. Like I really didn't actually listen to it though. Like never actually like read the lyrics. And geez, posthumous forgiveness. That makes sense now. You're forgiving somebody that's dead and gone. I mean, right now we're 4 for 4. I'm like curious, like how do you follow up a song like that? Breathe deeper. That's the next one.
Think I could hold my own, believe me. I can't believe me. I can't believe me. I can't. If it is so awful and we're all together.
Right. That was like a much needed like change of pace after like how heavy and emotional posthumous forgiveness was. Um I don't know, I almost had like kind of like a 80 or maybe like a late 70s, like 80s. Like I got like disco vibes, like Michael Jackson, like off the wall vibes from the instrumental on this one. Um uh yeah, I wasn't like I'm like kind of trying to figure out like what he's talking about here. Um I feel like this is like a something about um like a psychedelic experience, kind of with like the breathe a little deeper, should you need to come undone, like let the colors run. That's kind of what I was getting out of it, is that, if you need someone to tell you that you're special, like I feel like that's something you might need when you're on psychedelics. So that's kind of what I thought he was discussing, like a psychedelic trip, and maybe perhaps kind of being like a trip guide to somebody, or just like doing whatever psychedelic they're doing together, and helping them through it. But good song, like nice little change of pace. Killed it on the outro again. Like that's probably like my least favorite one so far. Like it didn't hit as hard for me as the first four did. Um, it was still like solid, and it was a much needed like I don't know how emotional this next track's gonna be, but it was a buffer. I'm assuming there's gonna be more um heavy tracks as we get deeper into the album. But that was a good buffer, kind of lighten the mood a little bit, have you dance a little bit, and get you on to the next track. Tomorrow's Dust. Doesn't. It's not like a seamless transition. It's not like a seamless transition. Tomorrow's Dust was really, really good. I like that it started out kind of minimal with the like acoustics and the guitar, and then as the song goes up, you're starting to get more and more different instrumental layers, and then you got the synthesizers and stuff going like that at the end. Um, I mean, this first like verse was like very like what's the point of anything? I feel like. Um, and And then as it keeps going, I mean, and in the air is tomorrow's dust. Like I feel like that's like maybe like this is about like worries, like future worries and stuff like that, and maybe just like kind of being concerned about the future and also like the past, like blinded by memory and stuff like that. Um, So I mean, I'm not. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm not fully understanding everything about this song. I mean, I think I get the gist of kind of what's going on here. I think it's about like moving on. Maybe. I don't know if I'm misinterpreting this. Like I feel like it's about moving on, like being blinded by a memory, and then like tomorrow's dust. Like it's gonna be nothing tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's just gonna be dust tomorrow. I'm gonna get over this. I'm gonna move on, and that part of my life's just gonna be dust. That's what I'm I'm thinking anyway. But anyways, I really like that track. Like that was really good. So far, like I loved like the first four. Like really like this one. And I thought Breathe Deeper was like solid. So far we're looking at a really good album. We're basically past the halfway point now, so track seven on track.
I close my front door and turn on the light. I let out a breath, holding a sigh. Ain't nothing new, ain't that much inside. And if I'm counting days, dream fruition, what it's looking like. But strictly speaking, I'm still on track. Strictly speaking, I'm holding on. What on the mind I said that. But strictly speaking, I'm still on track. And all of my dreams are still inside. Strictly speaking, I've got my whole life. I was to feel a while back. But strictly speaking, I'm still on track. Driving this forward in my life. Strung out again, but still on track. I know it's unrealistic, over optimistic. I know I tried before this. I know it's nearly August. I know I can't ignore this. Looking forward to all this. Saying, babe, I just adore this. Babe, can we afford this? I know it's gonna slow you. Nothing much to show you. I didn't really go for it, so not a lot to show for it. The hardest part is over. Adjusting to the Strictly speaking, I'm still on track. Strictly speaking, I'm holding back. Troubles keep falling in my lap. Yeah, but strictly speaking, I'm still on track. So tell everyone I'll be alright. 'Cause strictly speaking, I've got my whole life. More than a major setback. But strictly speaking, I'm still on track. The hardest part is over. I just think it's over. So glad you're coming over. I want to spend the kiss of the world ain't waiting for you. I just got really older. The rest gets easy. The rest gets easy.
Well, that was a really good one. I mean, that was solid. Um, I like kind of like the message of the song, you know, kind of like I feel like it's about like over. I mean, I feel like it's like one of the more straightforward songs on the album. You know, there's been a few that have been just like really straightforward, like Posthumous Forgiveness, and I feel like this one's also just like really, really um straightforward. He's just, you know, talking about having setbacks and challenges and overcoming those challenges to you know, move forward and head towards your goals. And you know, he's still on track, and I think the point he's making is that, you know, until your life's over, there's nothing stopping you, or you at least still have the opportunity to do the things you want to do and go after the things that you want to do. So, you know, you're never really behind. You're still on track, you know, as long as you're breathing. That's kind of what I got out of this song. Instrumentally, I thought it was okay. I thought it was pleasant. A little like I don't know, a little repetitive, I guess, in terms of instrumental. Like it didn't do a whole lot. Not a lot of changes. Wasn't as layered as some of his other instrumentals have been. I think it's solid. Like I don't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. It's kind of on the same level as like Breathe Deeper, where like, you know, I like it. Um, you know, just haven't, you know, quite loved it as much. But you know, we're going on to Lost in Yesterday. That's the next track number 8. So let's give it a spin.
When we were living in squalor, wasn't it heaven? Back when we used to get on it 4 out of 7.
Really enjoyed that one. I think that's one of my favorite ones I've heard so far on this album. I like it's. I mean, I feel like it's it's really another one that's kind of straightforward. It's really just about your relationships with your memories and past traumas and things that you went through. I like where he talks about eventually terrible memories turn into great ones. That happens to me a lot. Like I get nostalgic about like bad times that I went through, and like looking back on them, like they're like it's like a it was bad in the moment, but it's like a good memory now. Like that type of thing. Like especially like with like breakups and stuff like that. Like you look back on it and like when the breakup was happening, it was like terrible, but then you look back and like saw like the changes you were making and the changes you were going through and the way you were coping with those emotions. It's like sometimes it's comedic to look back on and they turn into like a good memory. Then I think he's like doing a lot of like questioning, like is it good to look back on some things? Like maybe you need to face some things, but also you don't want to dwell on them too long. That's why he's mentioning it, like you digging them up like Groundhog Day. Like you can overdo it, you can um really get stuck in the past, but you also you don't want to avoid it, you want to face it. So I feel like this song is really about that balance between like um not living in the past but also not avoiding it and not taking it as an opportunity to grow. That's at least how I'm taking the song. Yeah, one of my favorites so far. Instrumentally I thought it was good. It wasn't like I don't know, it was one of those ones where I felt like the lyrics and the message of the song was so strong, like I really wasn't focused on the instrumental as much. But anyway, we only got four tracks left. Track nine is a trick.
We were hanging in the morning, feeling all different kinds of things. We were talking about everything from the past to the happening. We started talking about devotion, the kind that goes on eternally. And I tell her I'm in love with her, but how can I know that I'll always be? She just said, is it true? Is it true? Tell me now. It's a promise I can't make, and I won't let it be. Was I in some kind of mood? I don't know, I don't care. I'm sleeping in my room. Here I am, back again. She's in my I was happy just listening, no intention to be mentioning. We started talking about the future, not the notion I was motioning. I'm just so terrified to face up, like any moment I wake up, 'cause she's the only thing I think of. I told my mother that I love her. She just said, is it true? Is it true? Tell me now. It's a promise I can't make, and I won't let it be. Was I being immature? I don't know, I don't care. Now I'm sleeping in my room. Here I am, back again. She's in my my I said we'll see, we'll see. My
Really enjoyed that instrumental breakdown there at the end. Really enjoyed that one overall. I thought it was, it was lighter, but it was it was touching on like somewhat of a deeper subject of, talking about if his love is true and if you're gonna love somebody forever and he's saying he can't promise that, can't validate it, can't I feel like he's being like real practical and like logical, but I mean, I really feel like the song is really about him being guarded and not wanting to just like open up about his feelings about this person. But it comes across as him just being like, oh, I can't promise the future. We'll see. Let's see how it goes. We don't know how the future goes. But I feel like he's really just being really guarded with his feelings and, being hesitant to go all the way in. Or, that's just how I'm taking the song. But track 10, it might be, um, let's get
Something doesn't feel right. That's enough for one night. Hope you get home alright. There I go, blaming it on the weather. But hey, there's nothing wrong
kind of hits home, for me a little bit. I'm 29. I'm not like super old, but I'm gonna be 30 at the end of this year, or like in the middle of this year, really. So I get a lot of what he's talking about. You're not as young as you used to be, you're not as cool as you used to be, and you start like thinking about like the finite nature of life. And I feel like, for like a lot of this album, that's kind of what he's getting at, is kind of, the finite nature of life. We're not always gonna be here. Um and I mean, it's just something you got to accept. At a certain point, you get a little bit older, you realize you're no longer going to be that young person that's cool and up to the now with all the young people. And I mean, for me, um, I mean, like I feel like it's a balance. Like you want to be able to keep up with what's going on, but at the same time, you don't want to force it and try to make yourself like out to be younger than you actually are. But yeah, I mean, this song is really just about getting older and realizing, time's moving pretty quick, and it might be time to start thinking about that and accept it. So really enjoyed that one instrumentally. I thought it was really, really good. Reminded me of something, I don't know, you'd hear on like Mario Kart or something, that little toot, 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 whatever that instrumental was. Um, got two more, got Glimmer and One More Hour, which we started off with One More Year. No, we got One More Hour after that. So I'm curious how that ties everything together. But Glimmer, next track.
It's like, oh, bass. Cool. You know how you make the bass better? Crank the bass up. Yeah. You know how to make the kick drum better? Crank the bass up. And it's like, no, not really.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. Okay. Um, okay, I mean, nice little instrumental kind of interlude, I guess, to, get you from track 10 to the final outro track of the album. I thought it sounded pleasant. It was a pretty good instrumental. I don't know, it was kind of weird like to have a whole track dedicated to an instrumental. Like not that not I don't think that's weird, like to have a whole track dedicated to an instrumental, but like if you were going to have a whole track dedicated to an instrumental, like I might have picked a different one. Like it wasn't bad. Like it was cool. Didn't hate it, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I'm like curious to see if like the melody from that instrumental or something comes back up in this outro. Um, because I mean, yeah, that just like threw me off a little bit. But One More Hour. Let's see how that ties everything together.
Just a moment right before all the sun ends. wasn't brave enough to tell you that there ain't gonna be another chance. It's not long until then everything's still. The minutes are racing. Whatever I've done, I did it for love. I did it for fun.
That I did it for love vocal, like somebody uses that in a sample, I think. Like I've definitely heard that before.
I did it for fame, but never for money. Not for houses, not for her, not for my future children. Until now. How could I love again? How could I ever ask for more? And to the road ahead, into a life I can't ignore. How could I love again? How can I walk this path for sure? With no more time to spend, I know the answer more and more. As long as I can, long as I can, spend some time alone. As long as I can, long as I can, be the man I am.
outro, really kind of, I feel like ended more on like a hopeful vibe. I need to like, because I feel like I've misunderstood some of the concepts. So I want to read this little blurb here that they put on the things on Apple Music. Has time on his mind. See, I mean, I was right about that. It's definitely about time and like the finite nature of it. So I think I understood that part of it. Ruminating on memories, nostalgia, uncertainty about the future, and the nature of times itself. I mean, I feel like I basically understood the concept of the album. Uh, addresses his relationship with his father. That was another thing I was thinking about. Like, did he go through like a divorce or something during this album? Because like, I mean, it was like obviously he was affected, but I don't know when his father died. Like that seemed to be something that affected him, but also it sounded like he was like going through something um romantically. One more year, I just realized we're standing here right here 1 year ago doing the exact same thing. We're blissfully trapped. Our life is crazy, but where's it going? We won't be young forever. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm basically understanding, where he was going with that. Be reckless with our futures. And that's what I was saying. That one was an instant destiny about like impulsive decisions. Borderline, um, at the edge of a strange new world. Okay, maybe I misunderstood that one a little bit. I thought that was about like a crazy night partying or something. Wrestling with demons of the past. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that one was pretty easy to understand. Breathe deeper. First time I needed to be guided. Okay, so I was right. I was right. That was definitely about a psychedelic experience. Our regrets tomorrow, our actions now. Ooh, I didn't pick up on that one. I mean, I kind of, I mean, I figured like, no, I misunderstood it, but like, I kind of got some of it, but that's crazy. That's crazy. No, that's clever. On track, yeah, that's what I was saying. That's like a pretty optimistic one. Lost in yesterday. I feel like I knew that one pretty well. Is it true? Young love is uncertain. Let's not talk about the future. We don't know what it holds. It's forever, but do I know? When it's all said and done, all you can say is we'll see. But I mean, that's what I feel like when he was saying like I hope it's forever, but how do I know? Like that's what I'm saying. He's being guarded about his feelings. And he's not wanting to give too much away in terms of the meaning because like you don't want to like just flat out say what the song's about. Um, it might be time. Obviously, that's that one was pretty self-explanatory. The time has come. Nothing left to prepare. Nothing to worry about. Nothing else to do but sit, observe the stillness of everything as time races faster than ever. Even shadows cast by the sun appear to move. My future comes to me in flashes, but it no longer scares me as I remember what I value most. So that's interesting. I mean, I feel like that's what he's I guess 1 more hour, he's talking about more like being present in the moment. 1 more year, that triggered like a lot of existential thoughts. So I guess it's kind of like overall, I really enjoyed this album. Um, it made me think a lot. I feel like it did a good job sticking to a theme. Instrumentally, for the most part, I enjoyed a lot of it. A lot of the production was pretty layered. I liked a lot of the sound choices. I mean, there was a few that were a little bit loopy and repetitive, but for the most part, there's a lot of really interesting choices. Um, so I'm gonna score it. Uh, this is like my scoring system is I just like give 1 point to the tracks I like, give half a point to the tracks I thought were okay, give zero to the ones I wasn't really feeling and was kind of lukewarm on. Then I add all those numbers up and then divide it by the number of songs that there is. So. Okay, getting a little lost here. Let's see. So yeah, I'm feeling like a, rounding up, I'm feeling like an 8.5 on this. Uh, I pretty much liked most of the tracks. Nothing I really hated. Could have done without the little instrumental. Not that like I have a problem with, instrumentals being like having their own standout moments and stuff like that. It was just like a weird instrumental, I guess, to choose, um, to like stand on its own without lyrics or anything. Um, but overall, yeah, I mean, I liked pretty much everything. There was nothing I thought was really like bad throughout the album. Obviously, Posthumous Forgiveness was like that's a standout track for me. I had it downloaded, like I like had heard it obviously before, but Tame Impala is honestly like one of those artists I it's good vibes in terms of the music, so I just like never really listened to lyrically what he was saying. I just kind of had it on for vibes if I was like driving or doing something, but I never really like fully like looked into the lyrics. And yeah, I mean once I started listening to that one, I was in tears by the end of it. So that's like the big standout track for me. But yeah, shout out to our commenter who recommended this album. Good recommendation. I'm glad I listened to it. Definitely gonna have some of these songs in my rotation, and I'm feeling more inclined to go listen to the rest of Tame Impala's discography. So thanks for watching.